Right, so Keir Starmer's Labour Party has welcomed back Luciana Berger with open arms, apparently after Starmer himself invited her to rejoin, which is a kick in the face to anyone suspended or expelled from the party, really, isn't it? Her return means Starmer will now almost certainly stand her in a seat, possibly Islington North even, as Corbyn's replacement, just to really rub it in, that under his Labour, antisemitism has been routed out when the complete opposite is true. More Jewish people have been purged under Starmer's tenure as leader than any other. The only Jewish member of the National Executive Committee elected just last year, Naomi Wimborne-Idrissi, was expelled before she could even take her place at her first meeting. Another victim of Starmer's retrospective purging of people connected to groups he had later proscribed. And of course, if you've seen my video on this from the other day, or one of the very few alternative media outlets that covered the story, you'll know Labour Constituency Labour Parties have been barred from affiliating to Jewish Voice for Labour now, the Jewish advocacy group for left-wing Jewish Labour members. Suddenly, they're the wrong sort of Jew. Luciana Berger's return provides cover for all of that, propagating the sham that Starmer has dealt with anything, because it was a scam, and it was all about get Corbyn, bringing him down, retake control of the Labour Party and turn it back into a Tory B team. For Labour members purged from the party or driven away from it, her invite back must grate a little bit, because it should be remembered that Berger left the Labour Party as one of several Labour MPs who went and set up Change UK, which quickly flopped, but was one of two MPs from that group to then switch to the Liberal Democrats. And she stood as the Lib Dem candidate for Finchley and Golders Green in the 2019 general election. She literally stood for a rival party at the last election. Her high profile at that point as the face for fighting Corbyn's anti-Semitism meant she split the vote and handed the Tory incumbent there, Mike Freer, an increased majority. Weirdly enough, it reminds me that she was also one of the chicken coup MPs who resigned en masse under Corbyn's leadership in 2016 to try and bring him down then. She was his shadow minister for mental health, and her resignation letter didn't mention anti-Semitism once. Anyway, she left Labour coming up for 4 years ago now, and now she's back in the Labour fold, apparently by invite. Now, any Labour members familiar with the rule book will know that standing for another party is an auto-exclusion offence and should bar anyone joining the party again for a period of 5 years after. So Starmer's torn up that rule. Another rule is that a member must be a member for 6 months and in good standing in order to stand for election for the party. So it'll be very interesting to see how fast she gets parachuted in as a candidate somewhere if she does indeed stand as an MP again. It wouldn't be the first time she had a parachute strapped to her, after all. Despite very much being part of the London-centric Labour set, she was once very close to Tony Blair's son. She got gifted the safe seat of Liverpool Wavertree, which she dropped to stand in Finchley for the Lib Dems in 2019. Did herself out of a job because getting Corbyn apparently meant more to her. Perhaps you might think that was a position of principle then. If she truly believed Corbyn was so bad, so racist, she couldn't possibly stand for Labour any longer. However, she once said she had no intention of joining the Liberal Democrats, and 2 months later she was one. So if we're going to consider her a principled person, still, for a second, let's have a look at what she's done since she ceased to be an MP. In 2020, she became managing director for advocacy and public relations for the US PR firm Edelman. One of the things they advocate heavily for is the fossil fuel industry, not least pushing narratives of climate change denial and blocking of climate change legislation. They're also a partner organisation for the World Economic Forum, which I know is a red flag for a lot of people. She spent nearly 2 years there, but she left in early 2022 to take up the role of CEO of in-house communications. So who'd be they then, Damo? Well, they're also a PR firm. In fact, they're the very same PR firm Change UK used to promote themselves and vet their candidates, and was set up by the same people who ran Boris Johnson's 2008 London Mayor campaign. She's been there for 5 months. I doubt there'll be any pressure on her to stand down from the role to be an MP again, though. In 2019, she became one of the vice presidents on the Jewish Leadership Council, alongside Starmer's mystery leadership donor, Trevor Chin, a staunch pro-Israel advocate. Little wonder Starmer wouldn't admit to being funded by him at the time, for Chin regularly donates to the likes of MPs belonging to Labour Friends of Israel, for example. She also had her second child in 2019. Congratulations. She had a son, who she names Zion. Not too on the nose for a pro-Israeli, eh? So, principles. You can make up your own minds what you think of hers. But she's back in Labour. The rules as flexible as they need to be when Starmer wants to bend them, and the Labour NEC can pretty much do what it likes. The rules surrounding membership and exclusion from the party have become ridiculously complex now, but seem to amount to the NEC being able to overrule what they like, when they feel like it, and run by right-wingers as it basically is again now, why should we be surprised when they purge the Labour left and happily readmit former members of the Labour right, even after standing against the party not that long ago? None of this is to say Berger hasn't been on the receiving end of anti-Semitism. She has, just not from the Labour left. Between 2014 and 2018, she was subjected to significant abuse and harassment from a group of neo-Nazis who ended up being jailed over the matter, and deservedly so. But that isn't to say she's tried to claim anti-Semitic abuse elsewhere when it hasn't been. Being an MP in Liverpool meant she was an MP for one of the most socialist, most staunch Labour strongholds in the country. When Liverpool Wavertree CLP tried to bring a motion of censure against her for attacking Jeremy Corbyn more than the Tories, her loyalists in the Labour right immediately played that anti-Semitism card against her own members, and the allegations carried in the media stuck. To my mind, inviting Berger back is to cement Starmer's notion that anti-Semitism is over, to somehow demonstrate that to the public and to help the whole fetid, dishonest scam be put to bed. And Berger accepting the invite to rejoin does just that. Unfortunately for them, where there are people like me who will dig into such issues, we can bring up the Ford report, which stated that Corbyn made significant changes to reduce anti-Semitism and racism in the party. But under Starmer's tenure, the anti-Semitism training given by his faction, in this case, the Jewish Labour movement, was inadequate. And Ford asked the question why other Jewish groups, like Jewish Voice for Labour, were not involved in this. Now, not only have the JVL not been brought on board, but CLPs have now been barred from affiliating to them, de facto banning them. That's not the sign of a progressive anti-racist party. That's not a sign that Starmer's Labour has learned anything from the Ford report. That's a sign of a totalitarian, authoritarian organisation that has used it for its own ends. How can members excluded on trumped-up charges or anyone else looking at this with a critical eye, not in the privileged position of Luciana Berger, and think any other way? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit like and subscribe, leave a comment and hit the notification bell too so you don't miss the next one. Also look out for me on social media and other interesting stuff by clicking the Linktree link in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, folks.